So the goal of this entire podcast is whatever you want in your life, you want to attract, you must become a magnet to that by becoming that first. If you want financial freedom in your life, then you need to focus on building that in your mind first, on visualizing what that would look like, on feeling that before it already comes, because that is magnetic. You are the thing that wealth is attracted to. But if you are focused on what you don't have, ironically, you're going to attract more, because like attracts like, of what you don't have. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Let's Talk Nuance podcast. My name is Kira Louise, and I'll be your host today. And today I want to talk about magnetism. So in the last episode, I kind of mentioned magnetism a bit, and I wanted to further expand on what that means. So if you were to look up the definition of magnetism, you might find what we know from physics as like literal magnetism, right? Like two magnets coming together. But today, what I'm referring to is more in regards to the spiritual realm and what it means to be magnetic. And so, again, this is just my perception of it. This isn't necessarily the end-all be-all definition of magnetism or spiritual magnetism with anything on this podcast. This is merely my interpretation of these things and how they have played a role in my life and how I hope to influence you in yours with my own experience. So from my perception, magnetism is this force, right? It's this idea that our energy as human beings, and we all have energy, we're all energetic beings, is attractive. And I don't mean attractive in the sense of like finding someone attractive, although you could say that when you do find someone attractive, you are magnetized to that person. But more specifically, what I'm referring to is just being drawn to a person, a situation, a thing, an experience, right? And that is an example of magnetism, of an energetic attraction. And so I could give you a really good example of this in my own life. In the example of how I manifested my fiance. So just to kind of go down a little bit of a rabbit hole here, when I had moved to California originally 6 years ago, I was not happy with my life. I wasn't happy with the way that my body looked. I wasn't happy with, just really anything in my life. So when I first moved out here, I acquired a notebook. And in this notebook, before I ever knew anything about spirituality in the way that I understand it now, I would write down the different things that I wanted to shift in my life and the ways in which I'd like to see them shift in my life. And so I started out with my body. I started writing down, the current state that my body was in at the moment, both physically, but also like internally, right? Like what was my nutrition like? How did I care for my body, etc. And then I started researching different body types and different ways to nourish our bodies, different ways to exercise based off of the unique body that we have. I just kind of hit every aspect of my life. So I wrote out finances and where I was currently at with my finances, what I would like to shift in my financial life, and started doing research and writing down examples of ways that I may be able to do that. Another thing that I wrote out was I started to make a list of the type of person that I would want to attract, that I'd want to be with, a partner, right? At the time I had, been dating a lot of guys and not really finding myself super attracted to any of them. I felt like I was just kind of going through the motions, dating random people. And while I felt like those experiences were really good for me to move through the fear I had around dating, I felt like I needed to really start narrowing down the qualities that the person I desired to be with long term would have prior to meeting that person. When I would go on dates with people, I would write down things I really liked about them. I would write down things I didn't like about, them, not necessarily anything personal, but the things that I decided would be a good match for me as a long-term partner or would not be a good match for me as a long-term partner. And so in this process, I started to narrow down exactly the type of person that I wanted to magnetize into my own life. And what I didn't realize at the time was that I was beginning the process of manifestation in just getting really clear about who it was that I wanted to be with and what the traits that they would have would be. Again, I had no idea about manifestation and that I was actually following the steps of the process of manifestation and doing this. But really at this point, I was just trying to gain some clarity around what I was even looking for in a partner, rather than just dating people randomly and deciding I wanted to be with someone because they were attracted to me and I was attracted to them. So in this process, I got really clear about who it was that I wanted to attract into my life and what type of man I would want to marry and raise a family with and travel the world with and just really do all the things that I desired to do. And so I kept this notebook around and I just kind of forgot about it. I wrote everything down and then just started really focusing on myself and focused on becoming the best version of me that I could possibly be. Now, how this circles back to magnetism is that these actions that I was taking, this desire to get clear on the specifics around what I wanted in a relationship and in a partner, and this process that I was following and then going on to become the best version of myself. So taking care of myself. The key in this was eliminating as much toxicity from my life as I could. So that meant drinking less alcohol. That meant getting better sleep, eating more nourishing foods, drinking more water, finding a type of fitness that I really enjoyed doing and doing that frequently, and kind of building my whole life around caring for myself rather than just kind of trying to distract myself from the fact that I wasn't happy. And I think this is key in building magnetism, is going from the place of distracting yourself from the ways in which you are unhappy and shifting into building a lifestyle that really complements the desires that you have in life. And I think regardless of what those desires are, a key to achieving them is always going to be eliminating toxicity from your life and just bringing clarity to your whole vessel, right? And so that means starting to accept your emotions and allowing them to come up rather than, doing things to ignore them. So before, whenever I would feel lonely, I would reach out to someone and go drink or go out to eat. I would distract, right? If I was feeling upset, again, I would go distract in some way. And so in this chapter of my life, I really pivoted into a place where I was starting to just be with myself, right? I was spending a lot more time alone, reflecting a lot more, and just getting really comfortable with the things that I previously felt were scary or uncomfortable. And so in this process, as I started to really focus on myself and ironically not caring anymore about the approval of men, i.e. going on a bunch of dates just to gain validation from men, I then attracted my partner, and it was completely random. Prior to this, I was on Tinder all the time. I was on Bumble, just on all the dating apps, desperately seeking a partner because I didn't want to be alone. My motivation was not being alone, right? And that's a very repellent frequency because it's not rooted in my best interest, and it's not rooted in the other person's best interest. It's a repellent frequency because it's not going to attract my desires, because at that point I wasn't really clear on my desires. The only desire I had was not being alone. So the shift, as I've been speaking about, was getting clear on the type of partner that I wanted and then letting that go and then becoming the match for that person, right? So I wanted somebody that cared about their physical body, that had a fitness routine already. I wanted someone who was positive and a light to be around, right? Someone who was moving in the direction of their own goals and seeking to better their own life and their own experience. I wanted somebody who was financially empowered, who, didn't need to have a ton of money, but needed to have the desire to build wealth and to become empowered financially. I wanted someone who would be a really good dad, who would be really excited to raise and have children. I wanted someone who I found attractive physically, and who found me attractive physically, someone who had a good sense of humor, who enjoyed similar music that I did. I'm sure there's more, but this is kind of the gist of what my list was. And so about 3 or so months into really just focusing on myself and eliminating all of the bullshit. Essentially, how I like to visualize it is I was trimming the fat of my life, right? All of the things that were not serving me, that I was just doing to fit in or to people please. I just stopped doing those things. I stopped drinking because it interfered with fitness and my workouts. I started prioritizing, like I said, hydration and nutrition. And in this process, I then attracted my partner. And this was a very monumental moment. I knew within about 15 minutes that it was him. And I've never been someone who was really hopeless romantic or anything like that. But this felt right immediately because I had gotten clear on my list. I had gotten clear on the person that was going to complement me and the direction that I was moving in versus a person who would hold me back in the place that I was before. And this all is magnetism. This process was me really getting clear on my needs and my desires for the purpose of magnetizing the person into my life that would support me long term, that would become my future husband and father of my children. And I think the whole point of this episode is just really getting clear on understanding what magnetism is and how if you focus on becoming a magnetic human and you become the version of yourself who attracts those things, you will attract those things. But if you're not concerned about what you're magnetizing and you're repelling the things that you want, like for instance, this is going to be a random example, but I've got a friend who will always tell me, this is the type of person that I want. Let's say that he is into fitness and he wants to have a family and he's goal-oriented and focused on his future. But then if I want to attract that and I'm the person who is drinking all the time and unhealthy, like not really focused on becoming a better version of myself at all, then why would this person who wants to become better, who is goal-oriented, why would that person be magnetized to someone who is not? They wouldn't, right? Because like attracts like. So the goal of this entire podcast is whatever you want in your life, you want to attract, you must become a magnet to that by becoming that first. If you want financial freedom in your life, then you need to focus on building that in your mind first, on visualizing what that would look like, on feeling that before it already comes, because that is magnetic. You are the thing that wealth is attracted to. But if you are focused on what you don't have, ironically, you're going to attract more, because like attracts like, of what you don't have. So if you're focused on, I don't have any money, you're going to keep manifesting circumstances where your money is drained. All these bills that you need to pay are going to keep popping up, or medical expenses, etc., because you're focused on that thing. And what your mind focuses on is also a huge part of magnetism. If you want your partner to be more open and communicative with you, then how can you focus on being more open and communicative with your partner? How can you be the thing first that you're trying to attract so that you can magnetize it to yourself? Like attracts like. All right, editing Kira here. There's one thing that I felt I missed in this section of the video, which is the next right action after becoming magnetic. A very important part of manifesting what you desire is taking aligned action with your goals. So, of course, becoming magnetic is so important. And after becoming magnetic, after focusing on that part of the journey, it is equally as important to then continuously take action in alignment with what you are magnetizing. If money is what you're looking to attract, not only do you get clear on seeing yourself as a wealthy human, visualizing it, feeling what it would feel like to become wealthy, but then you're also taking the steps to plant those seeds into reality. So the universe isn't going to just drop money into your lap. I mean, that could happen and it has before, but you have to provide avenues for the universe to bless you in the ways that you desire to be blessed. And so if you are looking to manifest money, you become a magnetic to that money. So you get into the mindset of being an abundant human being, of being in the mindset of someone who is wealthy, and then you take the action steps to create wealth in your life, right? You familiarize yourself with your finances. You research ways in which you can create more money in your life. You eliminate excess spending, right? So part A is becoming that attracting force. But then part B is taking the action to show the universe that you are ready and willing to receive the things that you desire. All right, I think that's all I have to say on this topic. Thank you for tuning in to episode 4 of the Let's Talk Nuance podcast. Again, my name is Kira Louise, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Until next time.